Good afternoon, and welcome to the second week of Child Psychology Online. I'm Patrick Smith, and this is our first time together just to chat like this. Actually, I'm the one chatting and you're listening, which is rare. I like to be the one to listen. So, anyway, I'm glad to see you, and I'm glad to share this time with you. Um, what I usually do during this time every week, just a little intro to the next week. I really try to just summarize what we've talked about so far. And so, what we have here in the first week is just an introduction to child psychology. Just want you to get an idea of the directions we're coming from, the different perspectives, the different theories, and all of that. And so that you can understand as we go through the lifespan of a child and an adolescent, that you can get like the different views of like different cameras to look at the child. The big question, I think, is what is it that makes us who we are? Where do these children come from? And so, in this first week, I gave you an opportunity to look at a little experiment. I think this is a variation of the marshmallow experiment that was done back there in the 90s to really to capture what it is that what is it really that would lead a child to be able to put off being rewarded or something. So there are cookies, there's time, whether the child is going to eat the cookies or wait till the parents come back, and then, or the adult comes back, and then the adult comes back, and then what does the child do if the one child has more cookies than the other or something? Can they share? Will they share? Or what really leads to that? And so I asked you to really look at those kinds of variables. What is it? What is it that as child psychologists or child researchers we would want to study to understand more about children? And in this case, a lot of you pulled out different kinds of variables. I would call them variables, but also, what are the influences that cause a child to do what he or she is doing? Um, so here you are. This is the first time we've done this, so if you have never had a class with me, you know that I like to call people's names out that I think they did really well. That doesn't necessarily mean everybody hasn't done really well. It just means every week I'm just going to pull 4 names that I think you did really well and try to mention the different things you say, just so that everybody gets, you realize that you really are a part of this class. This is responsibility. This is part of the grade. And that also, I want to encourage you really to think about stuff. I don't know if there are always a right or wrong answer, but you definitely are going to be exposed to some questions where you really can think for yourself. And that's the point. So I wanted to call out Jada. You looked at a lot of different variables. And the idea of the sharing and the waiting. And this is a question: what is it really that leads a child to be able to wait, to be rewarded? And what is it really that leads a child to be able to share? Is it age? You really mentioned differences in gender, which was interesting. I don't know if I've ever really thought about gender having an influence there, but maybe there is a difference between the way the boys and the girls acted. Allison, what you said about age is really good. Certainly, that is kind of the touchstone of child psychology because we are chronological here. So we do want to understand that older children act differently from younger children. Aiko, I like how you brought in the influence of personality. Well, that's my approach, that I do think that there is a lot of us, each of us, that is that innate uh, business, our personality, our temperament. What are we born with? It. Not everything necessarily could be added to us by other people, but we do start out with something. You also mentioned developmental level, which is a little bit different from age, because with age, our assumption is sort of that because children get older, they become more disciplined or whatever changes there. But with developmental level, we're really looking at the development of specific skills so that we could say a child may be behind it is development, because at a certain age we would expect that development to have happened. And Jessica brought in sort of the opposite opinion. I thought that was a really good mention, that she had a family influence, among other things. And that is certainly something that most of us believe, that our family influence is going to be reflected on here. I mean, wouldn't it make sense? Wouldn't it make sense? A child who has siblings would act a little different from a child who doesn't have siblings. As far as sharing the cookies, or being surprised that there are no cookies, or what do you do if you have cookies and the other person doesn't? Still like that little boy who grabbed the cookie from the other kid, but isn't that what boys would do? Thank you, Jada. Anyway, I hope y'all have a great week as we are moving on into looking at the specifics of where do we come from. And so for yourself, you should be answering that question. Do I really know where babies come from? And we'll talk about that next week, because it's a good question, isn't it? Anyway, take care of yourselves and have a great week.